All right, it's that time tonight, and we're always glad to be right here on the air. I got to get my volume up here. Tommy, okay, are we recording? So, for all of you that join us on a regular basis, we had a technical glitch last week in our sound. And so we need to have some of you or any of you on Facebook shoot us a little message and tell us whether or not you can hear us. Tommy is trying to monitor that in the sound booth. We think YouTube was okay, but Facebook definitely was not.
Correct.
And there was no sound, right, through the whole show. And so anybody that can help us out and shoot us a text on Facebook saying right now whether or not you can hear us correctly, that would be wonderful. Tommy, are you hearing us?
I'm not seeing her just yet. I don't know.
Oh, boy. Okay. All right. Well, we will try that again. So we'll make sure. So we will. So that doesn't happen around here very often that we have any glitches in our technical stuff unless we've got hit by lightning. You got it now? Okay, we got it. All right, so we should be okay. But if there's any problems with sound, somebody please let us know.
I think it's all good.
I think it's all good. Thanks,
You're all
Tommy.
looking good.
All right.
Thank you.
We started a new series last week, and so because nobody could hear it, and we got so many texts, you did. I got a few, but you got a lot of what happened. We could see it, but we couldn't hear it. And so we're going to kind of do some of the same things we were talking about because in order to do this series, we got to have a foundation for that topic, don't you think?
I do think that.
So what is our topic, Dr. Angel? And that's Dr. Angel Falzone, PhD licensed mental health counselor. There she is.
I am here live and in person, and our topic is using our words.
Using our words, okay. I remember the first time I heard that phrase was a few years ago with some of my grandkids, and the parents would say, use your words, like trying to get them to, instead of just crying and being upset about something, to actually say what it was that was wrong, right?
Oh, sure,
and
yes.
that's kind of a newer phrase, don't you think? I mean...
it is kind of a newer phrase, I think, but, as a parent, especially with a young baby, all they're doing is either crying or,
right.
Having an emotional meltdown, and a
right.
parent, you're trying to figure out, are they hungry? Are they tired? Do they need, what do they need? Are they in pain?
Yeah.
So once we teach our kids their words, we need them to use them so we can help them
right.
when something's going wrong. And so that's an important thing we want to teach our teach our kids, but as adults, we kind of stop using our words.
And that's what we're going to talk about.
To communicate when things are wrong.
Right. Yes. And we're going to talk about why that is. Because pressure happens in adults and in teens. Teens especially are famous for this, right? They've got something going on at school. They feel pressure, whatever. They clam up, and they don't tell the parents. The parents are going, what is going on? You're not the same. You're upset. You're angry. We can tell. No, I'm fine. Or just they don't answer at all.
Yes.
That's a typical teen response, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, you having had 3 teenage boys at the same time understand that concept, right?
Oh, yes.
So anyway, it is a common problem with people, and as they grow older, they tend to use less words in a lot of circumstances. Not everybody. Not everybody's
not
like
everybody.
that. We've got some people that we know that are very verbose, so to speak. They're wordy. They talk. They let it out what they're feeling. But there's an awful lot of people that struggle with that, Dr. Angel. Why is that so? Why is that so?
Well, we talked about this a little bit last week, but I think there's this thought.
We talked, but they didn't hear.
They did not hear. So we were using our words.
We were using our words, but evidently it was silent transmission. Go ahead.
No, but, we kind of get this underlying belief that people closest to us should just know.
Right. Yeah.
They should just be able to read our mind. If they love us, they'll just know.
Right. And I think that really starts a lot in those teen years, a lot of times. I think up until those early teen years, kids kind of tell you what's going on.
Oh, yes.
They're a lot more verbal but when those teen years come, they start clamming up. And let's just start this show talking about teens and why is that? Why do teens do that? because I'm a grandparent of many of these teens, and you have had kids recently in that age group, and so you've experienced it. I have too.
Sure. Okay, so when our teens are kind of clamming up, it's usually they're clamming up with the adults.
Right.
And they're
not
using,
with their friends.
They're using their words with their friends.
Right. Yeah.
And, and that's kind of part of their developmental course. Like teens are supposed to be kind of pulling away from their parental figures and leaning more into their peers, which is why peers are so important for teens. And so as parents, they're very confused because they don't get the communication. So they do not know a lot that's going on in their lives. So their kids might be going through heartbreak or worrying about grades or, getting bullied, and they have no idea.
And this is a major problem. It really is in a lot of homes, don't you think? Because we hear about it, you hear about it in counseling, we hear about it in people we know, that not knowing what's going on in that teen's life causes the parent not to know how to help them, really.
Right. And they just know something's wrong because you know that they might get more quiet or hide out in their room or sneakier on the phone or something. So there's something's off, but they have no clue what that is. And then the worst case always runs through parents' mind. Like, oh my gosh, are they hurt? Are they using drugs or alcohol? Are they pregnant? Are they, I don't know, fill in the blank with all those fears that parents can have.
Well, one of the things that helps this situation in this day and age is the communication online between teachers and parents. Right. And back when my kids were in school, we didn't have anything like that. The only time we knew how the kid was doing was when they came home with a report card, quote unquote, an actual little piece of paper, card, right?
A card.
A card, right. So long ago, report cards. And now everything is online. So it does somewhat facilitate the parent communicating with the teacher.
And that's good for educational based things.
Right.
But in our teens' worlds, there can be all kinds of stuff going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've dealt, with parents who had teens using steroids and they had no idea this was happening.
Right.
Or, a teen hiding a pregnancy and they didn't know till literally the teen had the baby that she was pregnant.
Yes.
And they're like, how could we have not known? How did we not know this? They blame themselves.
But teens are really good about kind of sneaking in and then sneaking out and then wearing big clothes, for instance, in a pregnancy situation, and hiding. I can see how that could happen.
Well, that kind of stuff happens more frequently than you think. They do, and they are not using their words with their parents, and then it leaves parents feeling really left in the dark.
Left in the dark, frustrated. How do I communicate with my teen? What do
I
do?
help them?
How do I help them? Yeah.
And then if they find out it's this big thing,
something major.
Yeah, my kid's using drugs or steroids or they're pregnant or they're whatever, XYZ, fill in the blank, then they blame themselves. They feel like they're bad parents. I should have known. They get embarrassed. They don't want people in their social circle to know.
Right.
So it causes this huge multifaceted problem.
So that's an interesting way to start this show, because I think from there, a lot of teens grow into young adults and they have been used to not really talking much. And suddenly they find a romantic relationship, let's say, or they get into the workforce and they don't really communicate much like they should, except by typing, right?
True. Yes. So we are losing the art of conversation, especially in our younger generations. It's not something they had to practice as much because of the electronic technology. So they are much more comfortable with texting than even talking on the phone.
Oh, yeah. They don't even want to talk on the phone. Mm-hmm. Texting is that's the way to go, right?
It's the only way to go for
But
someone.
the problem with texting is that you can't really tell the tone of a conversation very well, right?
Not at all. It is the least effective communication we can give. So, we've talked about the wheel of communication. Words are 7% of our whole message we send.
Okay.
So when we communicate in writing, text, email, letters, we're giving them a 7%. like 7% is not acceptable in any.
So we did mention this last week, but it bears repeating. What's the 93% composed
So the other
of?
93% is composed of our paralanguage, which is our tone, our inflections on the words, and then our body language.
Our body language, too. Shows a lot, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. When a teen stomps out of the room, but won't say anything, but he throws something or he or she stomps out and slams her door, you have an idea there's something going on there.
There's a lot. Well, right. So, and now I can hear listeners going, wait, Dr. Angel, you just said use your words, but then you just said words are only 7% of what we communicate.
Right. So would you clear that up? Because I was getting ready to ask you that question.
No, that's okay, because it kind of sounds like it's part of the whole communication. And so what happens is when people are communicating ineffectively, they have body language that demonstrates one message, but they're wanting the other person to fill in the blank and guess what's under that body language.
Okay, so why do people want people to guess? Why is it that this kind of, I call it game playing, frankly.
It really is.
Why does this go on with so many people? And this is one reason we're going to do this series, because the goal of the series is to help people communicate better in not only their home relationships with their kids and their parents and family and maybe at work, but also in their primary intimate relationship, because so many people are bogged down by lack of communication in that relationship, right? So that's why we want to do this. So back to whatever it was you were talking about.
No. So, but, when we see someone, acting, they're moving around and we could tell they're obviously something's wrong.
Right.
There could be 100 things under what is obviously wrong. And when the obvious is never obvious, because we all see and view our world through our own filters of our life, our experience, our beliefs, what's going on in our world. And so we may have no clue of what someone else is going through.
And I know you've heard this, but I have as pastoral counseling in years past that people would come in and say, I had no idea that this person was doing this, or my child was involved in drugs, or my child was lying to me or stealing from me, or whatever the case may be. And somehow the communication broke down a long time ago. And that's really a big part of this series. Where we really want to help people build up communication, right? Restore, maybe.
Absolutely.
Maybe restore, or maybe you say, well, I've never been a part of a family or a friend unit or a church or anything where I communicated. I've always stayed to myself. There are some problems with that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Major problems with that.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a professional question, because you are the resident expert. At least you tell me that all the time.
I try to tell you that.
Oh, Tommy's not there to verify this, but you do tell me that you're the expert here. So because of that, I'm going to ask you this question. So for parents out there that do have some teens, let's say, or some middle schoolers that are already falling into the habit of isolation in their room, slamming the door, shutting the door, they don't come out for hours, or they take their food at dinner and go to their room and eat. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, that's not good. That's not healthy.
And what do you do? I want you to advise these parents on how you can restore communication. It
needs to be restored. And so a lot of times when parents are trying to restore this, they go into kind of trying to overtake control, which is going to get them the opposite reaction. The kid will pull away and pull back and isolate even more.
Right.
So instead of going in and trying to hammer down new rules and regulations all of a sudden, we need to just stop a minute. What's the problem? We're not communicating. Let me just take this child, one-on-one, one parent, one child, and let's go out to lunch.
Right. Have a date with them.
We're just going to go talk, or we're going to walk the park, or we're going to go to the beach, or we're going to go to the mall, but we're going to have some quality one-on-one time, and we're just going to talk. And then we want to start setting the expectation and tone in our house that we don't slam doors in our house. Like that we don't want that in our house. So, but we can't put those expectations in until we go back and do some relationship building.
So it has to do with relationship building. So I can just hear some of our listeners going, okay, I've got teens and they quit talking to me 2 years ago. And what do I do now? Is it too late to start?
There's never too late.
There's
If
never
we have
too
breath,
late,
it is
right?
not too late.
Okay. So to the parent out there that goes, oh my gosh, that's my kid. I can't ever find out what's going on. And I hear bits and pieces from their friends, you know. This lack of using your words, so to speak, lack of communication can cause tremendous divides in a family relationship, right?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. It definitely, I mean, it can totally break up the whole family unit. And so, you know, if you're that parent, first of all, you have to take responsibility for your part of the communication breakdown
Okay.
with your kid. And so letting them know, like, hey, you know, we haven't been communicating and I would love for us to fix that. And you know, what can we do to fix this? Like, let's have this as a working meeting. Like, give your child a platform to express his or her thoughts and feelings and what's going on.
I like that idea of take responsibility.
I believe,
Because-
especially if the kid's a minor, the parent needs to be the one to take responsibility.
But too many parents go, what is wrong with you? Why are you not talking to me? I can't believe you. Are you in trouble?
or I'm
It's-
dragging you to the counselor's
yeah,
office.
here we go. It's accusation, judgment, sometimes not well founded.
Absolutely. And so we got to reinstate that, and we got to let them know we love them and we care and we're not perfect and we want to do it better.
Right.
And so
That's
goes
humility.
a long way.
That's
it is
humility.
It is
Right.
humility. But see, that opens this heart now to your child to be receptive. And so then we kind of start talking about how do we improve this communication, you know, and having meal times together. Those are important communication times in families, and they're not doing it anymore.
No, they're not. That when I said that about kids taking their plate and going to the room, I think this is more common than people will acknowledge.
Currently, from COVID, everyone's dining room tables is turned into offices.
It's an
and school
office,
tables.
right? Sure,
So nobody's eating at their tables,
right. So,
and that's got to stop.
but it's one thing to go sit on the sofa or a TV tray with your
True.
with your meal. It's another thing to go into your room as a teen and shut
Yes.
your door and lock it.
Correct. And so, like, meal times are really important. Great communication times. It's a non-threatening time. It's a time for us to kind of come together as a family and just, hey, how's your day, or what's going on? Like, open that door.
Right.
And so if that's the expectation, like, you'll keep those lines of communication open. You have to make it a priority.
You have to make it a priority. And from what I've heard from many parents going through this different times in their lives, it seems like the kid will a lot of times be very, very secretive because they do have secrets.
Well, yeah, they all have
right?
secrets.
Yeah, but I mean, things that they don't want to talk about.
Sure.
And so if they can build a wall, which a lot of times the parent is not smart enough, or not smart is not the right word, I guess, in tune
There you go.
enough to be able to realize a wall is being built up here where they're not talking to you anymore.
Correct. Well, and so there's a lot of things that we need to do to kind of help with that. First of all, our kids are not going to tell their parents everything. It's rare for kids to have that type of
Oh, yeah.
relationship with
Oh,
their
yeah.
parent.
They're not
and
going
it's
to.
okay. We don't want to expect that. That's not
Exactly.
healthy or normal. We want our kids to be able to communicate with us, that we want to be that safe place. We want them to know we have an open door. We want them to know, but we also want to be able to provide them with other safe adults that they can go to when they need to for help.
And that's really good.
That is very good.
Any suggestions on that?
Sure, like connecting your kids in with like close family friends or leadership in like whatever
Youth group, a
youth
church,
groups,
if you can
church,
do that.
clubs, having adult mentors that you can trust, like, so they have other adult resources.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And a lot of parents take offense to that. Oh, they'll go talk to them about them, but not. I mean, you be happy they're talking to an adult. Like,
Right.
that's what we want them to be able to do. And maybe they embarrassed to talk to you. Maybe they don't know how to. There's a lot of things that keep teens from sharing things with their parents, and so. But we want to keep the line of communication, and we want them to have other safe resources.
Oh, absolutely. In this day and age, with COVID, there's been some degree of separation, kids not seeing their grandparents or extended family. And then there are some communities and cultures in our nation where everybody lives in the same house.
Sure.
Right? And so sometimes kids will find they can talk to better to their grandpa, you know,
absolutely, yeah.
or their uncle or somebody that they relate to. And as parents, we need to not be threatened by that.
No, we need to embrace that.
We
That's
need
a
to
good
embrace
thing.
that, right?
You know, and if we want to open the lines of communication up with our teens, we have to be willing to get into the world a little bit.
Yeah.
What are they interested in? What do they like doing? You know, parents, almost every parent I work with expects that child to get into the parent's world. But it's the parent's responsibility to get into the child's
Really?
world.
Expect the...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if the parent enjoys watching sports per se, they expect that kid to come in and enjoy that activity with them. This kid might be a video gamer, but the parent, oh, I'm not touching video games. Those things are dumb or da 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 da. You just go sit in there with them.
Just sit in there.
Go watch them do
and
it.
watch them.
Let them
Yes.
show you what they're doing.
Yeah.
Trust me, you will
I've
get
done
communication.
that. I have done that with some of my grandsons, and it's quite enlightening.
you get good communication when you get
do.
in their world.
You do. And because of that, what we're talking about here tonight, and these are wing it shows. We just, as we start talking. So as we are doing this show tonight, we're just kind of talking about family dynamics, which is fine. Let's just go with that because that's where we're at. But it's been my experience that so often kids they don't know what to talk to their parents about. They don't want to reveal secrets, but they also don't know so you have to create a common interest in the home.
Sure.
Okay? And so I'll just give you this personal example. After my divorce, my kids were 6, 8, and 10. 2 boys and a girl. And we watched baseball a lot and we watched basketball a lot. But one day, my oldest, Ryan, said, I want to start watching some football, And I said, yeah, let's do that. So it wasn't something that I had. Now I love football. It's probably my favorite sport now. But I don't know. Next to baseball, I'm not sure. They're kind of even. But I remember a conscious decision of saying, okay, we're going to do this as a family. We're going to sit down, we're going to watch a game, and you guys are going to teach me, all that you know about football, and that's kind of how it started. And they were young, but it started that way. And still they have memories of snacks they would feed me when I was in my recliner, when we were watching football games. They still have memories. And they go, remember when my oldest son, remember when I used to make you those fudge stripe cookies and then some graham crackers and then peanut butter and then this big, and he can still remember us sitting there because it was a conscious effort to make a memory.
Absolutely. And that's what opens those lines of communication.
Yes. And still to this day, they remember those things. So, and you've got some great examples with your sons, and we're going to do this break as we always do right now. If you guys have a question, if there's a particular problem that you're encountering with kids or anybody else in your life with this communication issue, feel free to put something on Facebook for us, and we will respond, or call in 727-441-3000, and we would be happy to talk to you. Let's go to break, and we'll be right back. Song is Brave.
Tampa Bay's Tan Talk. Entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
Dr. Angel Falzoni specializes in a variety of therapeutic areas, including trauma, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, stress management, self-esteem, interpersonal relationships, ADHD, behavioral addictions, as well as spirituality issues. A Florida native, she holds multiple degrees, including a bachelor's in education and philosophy, a master's of arts in professional counseling and marriage and family therapy, and a PhD in psychology. Dr. Angel is also a Florida licensed mental health counselor. She has worked with youth and adolescents for 14 plus years and has worked extensively in women's mental health for the past 6 years. She has worked in agencies providing mental health services to family and youth at high risk. Dr. Angel is an accomplished psychotherapist who works with children, teens, adults, couples, and families. Dr. Angel has advanced training and experience in working with LGBTQ specific individuals and issues. Dr. Angel can help you. Just call for an appointment at 727-501-6557 or online at drangelsdevelopment.com. Dr. Angel Falzoni, support for individuals, couples, and families. 727-501-6557.
Prompt professional service is what you will receive when you allow Marcia McAllister of Charles Rittenberg Realty to help find that perfect home or list your home for sale. With over 23 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, you will enjoy a smooth transaction from start to finish. Call Marcia today at 727-417-0707. Now is a great time to buy or sell a home. Call Marcia McAllister at 727-417-0707.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
I like that song.
Love that
Woo! Start speaking up. Say what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think most people, Dr. Angel, really go through life not saying what they really want to say?
Oh my goodness, yes they do. And then you know what happens is all of a sudden they'll get really mad or really angry at something, and then they'll
Then
just
it comes
spew
out.
it and then
Yeah, there it goes.
And what could have been a constructive conversation now becomes knives. Words of knives.
Exactly. If you're just joining us, this is the new series which we tried to begin last week using your words, but we didn't have sound on Facebook. So we're going on with it, but we don't have that show. So we're going to just kind of incorporate what we talked about, which we don't really remember. So we'll just go, go as we go. But anyway, so with this, we were talking about kids communicating, and I gave the example of my kids when we started watching football together a lot, besides basketball and baseball. But I can remember when we've done series on teens, because we've been doing the show now we're in our 7th year, right? And you talked about, as a single parent, and maybe when you were still married, I don't know, but game night.
Oh, yes, game night. That was something really fun we incorporated. And we carved out, a Sunday afternoon for like 2 or 3 hours and played all kinds of random games. Or we would even take, this was a really fun way of getting chores done on a Saturday morning. And when the kids were teens, is I'd write a list of all the different chores that had to get done. And we would play video games for chores. So I was getting in my kids' world of video games, and I am not a gamer, by the way. So I did lose a lot. And so the loser always got the worst chore. But everybody had to do a chore depending on what order you came in on the video game or whatever game we were playing.
That's
and
cool.
it was so much fun and buy-in, and we
that's
had a good time with it.
Yeah, that's great. And that actually gives them a say-so in a way,
gave them back
competition is a great way to get to kids, don't you think?
Oh, yes.
I just think that's, when my kids were little, we were living in Indiana, so we had a basketball goal in the driveway, and also I would always hit balls to them. They would be way out across the street in a vacant lot, and and competition, doing that as a competition, and who could score whoever would catch how many in a row and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
What does that kind of thing do as far as parent-child or parent-teen relationship?
It opens the doors for quality communication and those kinds of things, especially when you're putting yourself on an equal playing field with
Okay.
them in this game and activity. Like chores, that was a completely equal playing field. I could have had the easiest chore. I could have had the worst one. I was in it with them.
Oh, that's good.
You know, and so that, you know, it opens that door of, you know, of trust and communication.
Okay. It also creates memories.
Oh, well, it creates great memories.
And your kids are younger than mine, but I still have my kids, even though they're in their 40s now, being able to remember when that happened, we were doing that competition, whatever a case may be, right? Isn't that the goal of establishing communication, is creating memories that they're going to talk about 30 years from now.
Absolutely.
Mom, remember when right? You know,
Yes.
right? And just those things that cause them to have stories to pass down to their kids.
Sure.
Because my kids love sitting around the table with a bunch of us, and then they're telling what their brother did or this memory they had, and the kids are going, "Really, you did that?" And it's creating that bond, that family bond.
It sure does. And like that's an important, so as our kids become teens, like we get less and less quality time
We do,
with them,
yeah.
that we need to carve that out and prioritize it. It lets them know they're important, their world is important, we care, we're there to help them work through problems. And as parents, we got to take the responsibility for setting that stage.
Right. And, you know, every once in a while you watch a movie where there's, say, an Italian family. I have to pick on Italian because that's who you are, Falzoni. But where the grandmother always has Sunday dinner, or always has, you know, once a month they all come for a picnic or whatever the case may be. These are traditions. Traditions help communication.
Absolutely. You know, and it's funny because, yes, my kids are, they're all grown. They're all adults. Wow, I'm a mother of all adult children. But those traditions are still so important. I mean, I had a child halfway across the world living in Alaska,
Right.
calling up to be able to participate in certain traditions with us over the phone. Like,
Right.
they meant that much. And, like, those are the things
Yes.
that keep you bonded as a family.
Right.
You know, no matter where time and space takes you as a family. And so...
Well, Anthony Army, right?
Anthony was in the Army in Alaska.
But
yes.
I remember you said that he would be a part of things from a distance.
Yes.
That keeps that bond going, right?
It sure does. I mean, we have that silly tradition between Thanksgiving and Christmas of watching a Christmas movie each night and eating some kind of Coke and cherries and fudge or something bad.
Every single night for a
every
month?
single night for a month we watch Christmas shows.
Oh my gosh. Are there 30 some of those out?
Yes, there are, and we only repeat one movie, and it's The Griswolds. It starts with The Griswolds and ends with
Into
The
the
Griswolds.
Griswolds, which is
But
the best Christmas
Anthony
vacation.
would call, Mom,
yeah.
what's the Christmas movie for tonight? So he could be watching the same one
Oh
we're
my gosh,
watching.
that's great.
Yes.
But see, and that is communicating at a level that everybody's having fun. It's not about talking about their problems, but it builds the need to communicate, right? The desire, not
But
need.
See, you're right. So you bring up actually a really good point in how you said that, because a lot of times, by the times our kids are teens, most of the communication is only about problems.
Right. Yes.
We're only communicating with the kids when they're doing something wrong.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like, that's not communication
No.
at all.
Right.
And when we wonder why they avoid, well, I don't want to hear all the wrong things I'm doing. Like, so if that's all I can hear from you, I'm going to avoid that.
So what you're talking about here is positive reinforcement, right?
Sure. And
Explain
just
that.
having quality conversation, you need to talk about the things that are wrong, but we also need to talk about the things that are right.
And good,
we need to talk
yeah.
about the good stuff, and we need to talk about stuff that can either be good or bad. It's just stuff and fun. And we need to have those parts too, but a lot of times it's only we make it a priority when it's starting to interrupt our life. We got to make all of it a priority. It's about the relationship.
Okay, so let's take it right back to parents who might be listening who have teens, or they have younger kids, or they're thinking about having kids. Mm-hmm. So this is an intentional way to live.
Very purposeful.
purposeful, intentional. You say, you can decide tonight, listeners, that I'm going to, from this point on, I'm going to work on my relationship with my teens who don't talk to me, or who I can tell hate me, or always make fun of me, or whatever the case may be, because teens are really good at that, right?
Oh, yes.
Dismissing the parent, oh, you stupid, and you know what they're thinking in their head.
Oh,
right?
yes.
They may not say it, but
we can see that it's not happy all over their bodies usually, but
exactly. Yeah, the body language speaks, or their silence speaks. But what we're talking about in this series is we're trying to give positive help to our listeners to communicate better. Use your words.
Use your words.
Right.
And those words, when we're using them, we need to use them respectfully. We need to make sure we're using kind words. So, like, if we're angry in the moment, like, those aren't the words we want to be using in our conversation.
Right, no.
We need to cool down. So, like, staying on the team frame, like, that was the expectation in our house. We use our words, but we use them respectfully. And that means I don't get to yell at them any more than they get to yell at me. Like, they hold for me, too.
Oh my, because that is so different than what many, many American households are like.
Absolutely. It's this is my house. I pay the bills.
You can't tell, this is my house. As long as you're under my roof, you're gonna right.
Well, we teach people how to treat us by how we treat them.
Yeah.
Right?
Boy.
So if I'm yelling and berating my teen or young adult or child or whoever, then I just taught them that's okay to communicate like that to people, and it's not. So I have to lead the way, and no, I do not get to talk disrespectfully or yell or use words that are putting somebody else down. That's not how we communicate.
Yeah. I love that, and I just wrote it down. We treat people how to treat us by how we treat them.
Right. We teach them how to treat us.
We teach them,
by how we treat them.
We teach them.
Right.
And so often we are not even aware of what we're doing. We're just interacting the way, it's the way my mother always acted, or my dad would never put up with that, that kind of thing. But, okay, times have changed since the 1950s. So,
well, not only that, but we want a quality relationship, but we have a lot of parents get stuck in this power.
Right.
This whole power dynamic. And you can still be the authority figure. You don't have to crush your children to do it.
Right, exactly. And because there are so many times that parents think that they have to do something, right? They have to, just send a message. I got to send a message here. So I'm going to make sure they understand who the boss is, right?
You know what? And it's so not even effective. I can count on one hand the number of times I've raised my voice to my kids, and I have 3 boys.
Right. Oh, my gosh. That's crazy.
And each time that I did it, I went back to apologize because that was not the appropriate way to communicate with them.
Exactly.
And I apologized, and I asked for forgiveness.
Right.
Now, what they did that triggered me was significant and still had to be dealt with, but the way I handled it was wrong. And so... But that didn't...
Don't you think it's hard for a lot of adults to apologize to their kids for their behavior?
Yes, I have. Yes. Well, most adults do not feel like they owe their children an apology or they should have to apologize. And they feel it's the other way around all the time. And they go both ways.
Yeah, and I think it's that pride thing. We talked about humility a moment ago. Mm-hmm. I think when we are learning to use our words with our children... Yes, there is respect needed, and we need to teach that concept. But too many people do it with an arrogance, and all it does is alienate the kid. Do you want to amplify on that?
Well, sure, and that's what's important with a combination of a word is the tone and the voice that we're using. So, and we can cause so much alienation and damage. And, and we talk about, words can be so cutting. They can be like knives. I mean, I literally counsel adults that are in the 40s, 50s, and 60s that can remember the words their parents said to them when they were 6 and 7 years old like it was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
They hear that voice in their head over and over. You'll never amount to nothing. You can't do anything right.
That's very common problem. Mm-hmm. in the pastoral counseling I've done through the years, a lot of times people say they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, like you're talking, and yet there's still these deep scars, these deep wounds.
Yes.
And as we do this series, learning to use your words, it has everything to do with how to get along with people.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of what we're talking about. And that's just like a light bulb.
Well, it's getting
That's
along.
what I'm beginning to realize, because we don't plan these things,
Nope.
so we don't know how it's going to go. But I think that we need to learn how to get along with our children, the people that we live with, the people that we work with, the people that we are in love with, all that stuff. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's about experiencing healthy relationships.
Right.
We don't have one-sided relationships. And I think in the parenting world, I think a lot of parents put themselves as the rules only apply to the kids and they do not apply back to me. So they have to give me the respect. I don't have to give them respect. No, it's...
Okay, how do you define respect?
Sure. When I'm looking at respect, that I am looking at that I am not putting somebody else down, that I am using, not raising my voice. I'm not using anger postures. I am listening when they
What's
are
an
talking.
anger posture?
Slamming a door, even clenching your fist. Like those are anger
Slamming
postures.
your
Throwing
fist
an
down,
item.
yeah.
Hitting the
Right.
table. That I am using... I'm listening. I'm not over talking the other person. So when they're talking, I stop.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Too many people have grown up in homes where, as kids or teens, they were always talked over,
Oh, yes.
right? Because the dad or the mom, whoever, was a screamer, or you're gonna listen here. So no wonder they want to escape to their friends. No wonder they don't want to sit down and have a conversation with you.
They're not feeling heard. In fact, I know I've told this story on the radio before, but it goes really good here because there's a respectful way to even handle when the child and you are having a disagreement that can be very productive. And so my middle child, when he was about 15, he wanted to do something that I told him, no, absolutely no, you can't have permission to do this. And so he went to his room, and a day later he says, Mom, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, sure. In completely respectful tone. He presented me with a very well planned out PowerPoint presentation of what this means to him and why he thinks he should have this opportunity.
Right.
He never raised his voice. He was respectful. He had a very well thought out argument that even caused me to reconsider my decision and let him do it.
That's great.
But there was no yelling, there was no screaming, there was no arguing. It was.
But you set the platform for that to happen because you just said no, and you did not lecture.
No,
You're not a lecturer.
no, I'm not.
You're a teacher, but you're not a lecturer. And talk about the difference between that when it comes to parenting our kids.
Oh gosh, yeah. When we try to lecture, when we're lecturing them, it's us telling them that we know better all the time. We know better for them. We know all the right answers, and we use a lot of cliches. I'm the parent, that's why, or I said so, that's why. That's the lecturing. So we're talking down at them when we're lecturing them. We use way more words than they can even hear us say. When we are teaching our children, we are showing and demonstrating and modeling
Oh, that's so good.
a better way to do something.
That's so good. Yeah. Teaching does have everything to do with modeling behavior, and that's my pen. Can you give it to me? Because I want to write that down. Thank you. Modeling and is not lecturing.
It is not lecturing, no.
It is, the job of parents is to prepare your child to leave the nest.
Absolutely.
Right.
To be a healthy, functional adult.
Right. That's the job, right? And so when we are simply telling them and screaming at them and screaming at perhaps our spouse or whatever in the house, it does not show them a very good picture of marriage or family life.
Or how we communicate effectively, or how we love.
And I've had people say, I say, you guys going to have any kids, young couple? No. And sometimes they'll say, the reason is we both grew up in dysfunctional homes, and we just don't want to do that.
Yes.
And that always makes me wonder, why don't you want to try it with your own family? But a lot of times there's a lot of scarring. There's a lot of pain from childhood, dysfunctional homes where kids grow up being. We kind of touched on this last week, but we'll have to talk about it more. But in an alcoholic abusive home, or a physically abusive home, or whatever the case may be, or
Sure.
you know, and a lot of times kids just go, that just looks too hard. It's too hard for me to do that.
Sure.
And they miss some joy in life, you know.
Right, because they don't want to repeat that pain cycle. And, you know, and I don't want to sit back here and paint this picture like that we had some, you know, my kids, our family was this perfect model family. We're a family. I made many mistakes raising my children, but the difference is that we could talk about those mistakes. I could admit to those mistakes. They knew my heart wasn't to do those mistakes. And so the trust factor built up.
That's huge right there. The kids learn the heart of the parents.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, in order for a kid to learn the heart of you, dear parents out there, you have to know what your heart is and keep practicing that.
And that's right. And showing and putting your heart out there and showing your kids what your heart is for them.
Well, in medicine, in dentistry, or law, you practice law. You
Yes.
practice medicine. You practice dentistry. You don't have all the answers. My ex-husband was a doctor in family practice, and I can remember many times in the ER when he was an ER doc, and he would say, I didn't know how to do this, so I went back to the room, got this book, sat there and read for a minute and figured out, oh, that's how to handle this situation. And he could admit that to me. He didn't admit it to the patient. You don't go, I've just been up in there reading on this, you know, but just that humility of, okay, I'm not sure how to handle this or what to do here. I'm going to go seek some help. There's so many people that are so prideful, arrogant, whatever you want to, or know it all, that they can't do that. And that's a mistake.
Important to be able to do as a parent. Our kids aren't born with an instruction manual. And I mean, I know there's been many times where
Your kids were not born with the instruction manual? They gave me one in the hospital.
Well, my kids were like 10 pounds. There was no room for an
they
instruction
were so
manual.
big, yeah.
But no, I mean, I know even as a parent, like there's been times where I've run into a situation where I wasn't sure how to handle it, or if what I did was okay, all right, I've called you and bounced something.
Yeah.
I've called other people that I respected because I love and cared for my kids enough to want to correct something I did wrong.
Right.
Or to make sure that, you know, I'm helping and moving forward positively. But that takes a lot of ability to admit, I don't know it all as a parent.
Okay, so we've got like 6 minutes left. So this show did not go any direction that I thought it was going to go. All right. But I think this is extremely important show, especially let's say there's people out there and their kids are real little. That's okay.
Sure.
Learn these things now. Take notes. Go back and watch this on Facebook or YouTube.com. Go to YouTube, and then you can go to Tan Talk Radio / and the name of this show, Go Yard, and listen and listen and listen. So the points that really important points. Okay, respect is one. Mm-hmm. You have to, if you expect respect from your kids, you must respect your kids.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that means sometimes their opinion may not be what is your opinion.
No, and it's okay for us to have a different opinion. We need to do it and respectfully.
I've known parents who said, oh yeah, you can't get that kind of ice cream. You'll like this better. This is the ice cream you're going to get tonight. That's it. You're getting that. Well, I'd like to try that blue stuff. No, no, you're not. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Amplify on that.
Sure. You know, there's parents who, act like they're going to give their children a freedom and a choice or an option, and then they strip it back away and over submit their authority on their kids. And that's really important, to let our kids have the voice in the things we're giving them the voice for. I mean, I can remember watching a parent would tell his kid, do you want milk or juice? And the kid would be like, oh, I want juice. And he's like, you're getting milk. Well, why did you even ask him what he wanted?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen it in restaurants.
Don't even give them the choice if they really don't have a choice. But part of teaching our kids how to make good choices is giving them opportunities to make choices.
Exactly.
That's an adult skill.
Yeah.
And so we need to, when we're using our words, we need to say what we mean and mean what we say.
Exactly.
The end of the line.
We'd like to hear from you, listeners, on topics under this major topic we are starting now, using your words. Any kind of situations you'd like to hear addressed or questions specifically that you have, you can do that on Facebook. Because so many people listen to the show after it's live. I mean, it's later during the week, and we have a lot of listeners, and that is great. And so feel free to just put it right there on Facebook, and we'll get around to answering that. Or you might say, I'd like you to address this situation. So because you were here and participated in the show tonight, how would you like to sum it up?
I'm glad I was here. I'm
Are
glad
you
you
glad you're here?
acknowledged my body was in the
Yeah, I'm
room
so
tonight.
glad you were here, Dr. Angel, because yes, Tommy, otherwise it would have been Tommy and I in here doing the show. So,
Well, we're talking about using our words, and using our words is an important part of communication. And when we talk about using our words, we're talking about using our words in a respectful way, no matter who we're talking to, from our children to our friends to our coworkers to our peers to our parents, whoever we're to our lovers. We need to be respectful. We need to use a respectful tone of voice. We need to listen. We need to communicate honestly.
right.
And we need to leave those doors of communication open.
And I don't think you should wait till you have teenagers to start treating your children at a young age with, yes, giving them choices and so forth. If it's a real choice, give it to them, but listen to them and try to understand what they're saying. And a lot of times when they're 3, they don't make much sense and they can't say much, but you still are communicating on their level, trying your best
Absolutely.
to start out that way.
And you know what? No matter what age your child is,
No, it doesn't matter.
get in their worlds.
Right.
Get in their worlds.
Yeah, I've got almost 14 grandkids, and I do have 14, the babies in utero, but we've got a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old right now, and a 6-year-old. So there are those times where parents are struggling. They power struggle. They do all
yes.
kinds of things, even if they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're really testing you, and so it's a good time to set parameters, set boundaries. We talk about that a lot on this show. Finish your
It's a great time to
follow.
open the lines of communication.
Yes.
It's never too early.
Yes.
It's never too late. If we haven't been doing it, let's start doing it now.
Start doing it.
Take responsibility. Set up. Go take your child or your loved one out for some special alone time and open that door of communication.
And listen to this show again, because you will find a lot of truth there. We hope you'll join us again next week for Go Yard. As always, we love being with you, and we love to have their questions, don't
Yes,
we?
we do.
You can actually email us if that's easier, goyard2014@gmail.com. Go to our website, goyard2014.org. Listen to some of the pre-recorded shows there. And find them on Facebook. We've got a lot of them on Facebook now, YouTube. And we're just really glad to hear from all of you. Suggestions that you'd like us to talk about under this topic, using your words. And this has been Who Are You Anyway?
I'm Dr. Angel.
Oh, are you sure you are?
I'm sure.
Okay, she had to present an ID to get in tonight, Tommy. And I am Mama Mac, and this is Go Yard, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.
See ya.